The 1.6 gigahertz radio frequency has been associated with many extraterrestrial and paranormal events. Is this the frequency that can summon up UAPs, or are we simply detecting our own leaked radio waves? Join us on Aliens Explored as we test many of the competing theories of an issue that people can become surprisingly emotional about. Please consider signing up for our Patreon at patreon.com/Aliens Explored for just £2 a month so that we can continue to bring you this sometimes heated content.
Aliens Explored is a weekly podcast exploring famous and obscure cases of UFO sightings, alien abductions and other strange events from both a believing and a sceptical perspective whilst keeping an open mind. I'm Stu Jackson, a professional actor and amateur ufologist with a particular interest in the crop circle phenomenon. I'll be debating that otherworldly visitations are real. The truth is out there.
And I'm Neil Kelly. I'm a professional actor as well and used to work for the military as an intelligence analyst. I'll be arguing from a more doubtful point of view. I mean, it's all a bit far-fetched, isn't it?
Welcome back, listeners, to another episode of Aliens Explored, looking at all kinds of weird and wonderful things surrounding the otherworldly, UAP, extraterrestrial, who knows what. I am one of your hosts, Stu Jackson.
And I'm your other host, Neil Kelly.
How's it going, Neil?
It's going very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm, since the last 30 minutes since you last asked me, I'm really good, thank you.
Good. You haven't deteriorated in that time.
No, it has happened. It
can happen very quickly, can't it? Sometimes
it really, yeah.
Let me
especially with Miami.
Let me just check my blood sugar.
That's very important.
It's still relatively. It's a bit higher than I would like it, but not dangerously so.
Right. Well, we don't want to get you sort of het up or agitated or anything like that.
Well, actually,
so let's have a big argument.
Yeah, that'll bring my blood sugar down. Actually, it might put the pressure up, but it'll bring the sugar down.
Oh well, I'm sure if anyone can disagree about today's topic, it's us.
So, what is today's topic, Stu?
So we're talking about a specific radio frequency, and it's 1.6 gigahertz.
Right.
Now, in of itself, there's nothing particular. Well, I'll say there's nothing particularly special about 1.6 gigahertz. Some people have suggested there is actually quite a lot of special things about it, but the reason where we connect it to UFOs and UAPs is a lot of people over a long time have found that if they broadcast specifically at 1.6 gigahertz, they can often, not always, but often, they will get UAPs appearing in the skies nearby. Now, this has been highlighted especially in recent years with a TV show called The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, or The Curse of Skinwalker Ranch,
yes,
on what country you're in.
So it's running on the History Channel in the US.
Yes, it's also over here in the UK. We've currently got season 4 running at the moment on the History Channel. Yeah, if you subscribe to that.
Okay.
That's October. We've had 4 episodes, I think, of season 4. They've had the whole lot of season 4 in America. They get it way in advance of us.
Right.
Yeah, but I find it quite an absolutely fascinating programme. But on Skinwalker Ranch, we've talked about Skinwalker Ranch previously on Aliens Explored, and we will undoubtedly talk about it again. But this is an area in Utah, the Utah Basin, where loads and loads of strange, mysterious things have happened. It was a ranch owned previously by Robert Bigelow, who, whilst he owned the ranch, he started doing investigations into UFOs, was quickly snapped up by the government to do that research, but secret, so we never found out what happened. He sold it to Brandon Fugel, who is now doing lots of investigations, scientific investigations around UFOs, UAPs, but they're making it into a TV show as well. That goes a bit further than that. The lead scientist on this TV show, Dr. Travis Taylor, is the one who, when they've been what they call provoking a response on the ranch, and it does. I mean, Dr. Travis Taylor is big on rockets, so I think he's got a whole TV series that he just builds and launches rockets. So he's sent rockets up into the skies above Skinwalker Ranch, and stimulated UFOs, UAPs to appear. But quite often, when they're stimulating a reaction, they will suddenly start detecting a signal at the 1.6 gigahertz frequency. So it's associated with a lot of the strange goings on there.
Okay.
Is any of that new to you, or is any of that not new to you?
Yes, it is. It is, but what I've read is that it's called the 1.6 gigahertz is called the iridium signal, which is used by military satellite phones, and that used by the military. Reddit points out that Skinwalker Ranch sits almost directly between Hall Air Force Base and NORAD, or the Space Force complex. So if there was a flying hub 40 miles or so east of the ranch, Hill Air Force Base could communicate to the hub, and the message will be securely relayed to the NORAD or Space Force. So it would seem that, given the location of Skinwalker,
separate things.
Well, what they're saying is, given the location of Skinwalker Ranch, it's not surprising you'll be picking up the 1.6 gigahertz frequency on a regular basis.
Oh, okay, so you've just mentioned two completely and utterly disparate things. The iridium, the 1.6 gigahertz signal or frequency is not known as iridium. What it is, there is a satellite program called Iridium that uses 1.6 gigahertz as its frequency. So it's just a slight difference. The reason that satellite system is called Iridium is because there are 77 satellites in that network, and Iridium's atomic number is 77.
Right.
Or it's 77 on the periodic table, or something like that anyway. So it's just like it's kind of like a Starlink thing.
Right.
That's what it is. But it uses 1.6 gigahertz. The military have also used 1.6 gigahertz in communications. Yes, that's not a secret. And yet certain satellites do as well. However, for one thing, even given its location, so you're sending the signal up into a satellite and then back down to its location.
Yeah.
That's bypassing where you are in the middle. It's like where I am in the northeast of London. If I shot a beam of light up to a mirror up in space, that landed down, I don't know, somewhere in Kent to the southwest of London, it would be going over your head, Neil, but you wouldn't be able to see it.
But doesn't the signal radiate as well? I mean, you're directing it, the frequency up towards the satellite, but won't it be detectable all around you?
As I understand it, these are quite specifically channeled, and in order to get those distances, you're looking at microwave frequencies. So they are. It's more like a laser beam than it is a general broadcast.
So let's go back to what you were saying earlier about stimulating the appearance of UAPs over Skinwalker Ranch.
Yes.
So how do they do that?
They've done that a number of ways, and it's not just UAPs they've stimulated the appearance of. But one of their favourite methods of doing that is to launch rockets up into an area they call the Triangle, which is where they've noticed the most number of anomalies.
So
in the area.
That sounds like an enormous the sort of investment that the military aren't usually prepared to make to try and prove or disprove UAPs. We can send up a rocket. So imagine the guy doing the budget saying, yes, and what's the purpose of this rocket? Yeah, we want to see if it makes a UAP appear.
You're not looking at rockets like the manned rockets. It's not. It's the sort of rockets you get, like that you launch from your backyard.
What, setting up a firework? Causing
I mean, it's more
to
complex
appear.
than a firework. It's a bit bigger than fireworks, and they've launched some big rockets over the north there. But
a big rocket is a big budget as well, isn't it?
Yeah,
it
but you're
has to
not
have some kind of
looking at
purpose.
You're looking at thousands of dollars, not millions of dollars. It's the sort of thing hobbyists will launch.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like more like model rocketry than fireworks.
Yes, yeah, model rocketry, if you want to use that term. Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay.
You're talking hundreds of feet, not tens of miles.
Right.
They've flown there. They've got a helicopter that they've flown through the areas, anomalies. So all kinds of things that they've done to stimulate phenomena.
I read a story. I read a story about people who wear tinfoil hats. Conspiracy theorists who believe that someone's trying to send messages to their brain or whatever, so they wear a tinfoil hat to deflect the signal. So a group of, I think, researchers or possibly students at a university thought, well, would that actually work? Let's just look at a tinfoil hat and see what effect that has. And what they found was that at certain frequencies, it does stop the signal getting through. But at other frequencies, and suspiciously by frequencies used by the military, it actually amplifies it, wearing a tinfoil hat. So then they want. You could speculate. Well, there's a conspiracy theory that someone working for the military secretly is telling people they need to wear a tinfoil hat to stop the military sending signals to their brains. They put their tinfoil hat on and open up a gateway.
Yeah. Do you know what? I bet you've seen people wearing tinfoil hats as well.
They're not that common though, are they?
They're more common than people realise, and it's why I'm confident saying it, especially because you live in London, because the way people do it, they don't just some people just plonk a load of tinfoil over their head, but the people who generally do it, they'll wear it inside a normal hat. So you would never know.
They'll line their hats with it, okay.
Yeah. So that's why I'm confident, and it is far more common than a lot of people realise.
So, listeners, give us a call, give us a shout by the usual means. If you wear a tinfoil hat, and which frequencies particularly you're worried about, especially if you're worried about the 1.6 gigahertz signal, we'd love to hear from you.
So, talking about the 1.6 gigahertz, then there are some interesting aspects to it. Do you remember in the last episode, Neil, we talked about the Fibonacci sequence, or the golden ratio?
Yes.
1.618 is the golden ratio. It is the
1.618.
Fibonacci. It's the key number to it. So 1.6, 1.618. It's
Are we
pretty
blundering
close.
into the realms of numerology here, or
Not numerology. This is a scientific principle. It's a scientifically recognised sequence. It has a lot of importance in mathematics.
but is the Fibonacci sequence pertinent to this radio signal?
No. I'm just
It's
saying
coincidental.
that's an interesting. It's interesting that it's so close. 1.6, 1.618. I just think that's a noteworthy. I've nowhere to go with it, but I just think that's an interesting thing to note. Also interesting, but specifically on the radio frequency 1.6 gigahertz, in 2003, a study was done. This was a government-funded study, was done into the potential genotoxicity of the 1.6 gigahertz as a wireless signal. Now, they didn't do a study into 1.7 gigahertz, they didn't do a study into 1.5, specifically 1.6 gigahertz. They got a load of rats, and they basically fired this 1.6 gigahertz wireless signal at the rats, and they got some, control rats, and there were some that they only fired it at their skulls, some they fired it at the whole bodies. There's all kinds of tests that they did to see if there was any adverse reaction, any toxicity that came about as a result. I've not been able to find any information whatsoever as to why they did that.
Well, I'm reading here the FCC channel of frequency assignments as of July 2023, so we're pretty up to date, indicates that the 1559 to 1610 gigahertz is assigned to differential GPS services. The range from 1610 to 1660.5 gigahertz is assigned to the mobile satellite service. In fact, the entire 1.6 gigahertz band is assigned to various FCC licensees, including radio astronomy, space operations and research, weather satellites, and maritime communications and radar.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty ubiquitous signal.
But that wouldn't explain why, for example, when they started drilling into the ground at Skinwalker Ranch, suddenly they're getting a 1.6 gigahertz signal that they weren't getting before. When they stopped drilling, the signal went away.
Someone else suggesting that
Things
it
of
could
that
be from
nature.
it could be from a laptop or any other device around it.
But that
It could be from
then it'd just be there constantly. It wouldn't be there as the drilling starts and goes away when it stops. That wouldn't. And then drilling in a different area doesn't happen at all. It wouldn't explain why it appears when a UAP appears in the sky. That 1.6 gigahertz signal is there. When the UAP goes, the signal goes. Doesn't explain any of that.
Okay.
There is also another aspect to this as well that I think is worth looking at. So Dr. Travis Taylor, he had some concept. So when he started working on Skinwalker Ranch and this 1.6 gigahertz signal was appearing. Now, bear in mind, he's got multiple PhDs. He's physicist and, he's a proper rocket scientist. He knows.
Check out the big brain on Travis, as they say in pop fiction.
Exactly. So he had a bit of a concern that this 1.6 gigahertz signal that he kept picking up might have been a foreign power, basically. That there might be, espionage or something like that involved in this. So he took his findings. This was after the first year study at Skinwalker Ranch. He took his findings to the Pentagon. The Pentagon instantly and secretively made him very senior in the UAP task force, solely based on his investigation into the 1.6 gigahertz signal. Now, this 1.6 gig, like I say, this is not news. This is not just a Skinwalker Ranch thing. People have been using this 1.6 gigahertz signal to stimulate UAPs, UFOs, if you prefer, for years. And people have detected 1.6 gigahertz signals when UFOs and UFOs. In fact, it probably worked that way around first. People detected the signal, then started using the signal to stimulate UAPs to appear. So it's not new. And the fact that he went to the Pentagon, got this strange 1.6 gigahertz signal. That was a terrible impression. And they're like, right, we're making you very senior on this UAP task force.
Someone here saying the UAP task force was actually headed by Jay Stratton.
I didn't say he headed it.
This is what this guy's saying. He's headed by Jay Stratton. So let's pick holes in this. A guy who believes he's encountered ghosts at Skinwalker Ranch. He's just a fan of paranormal stuff and already had a connection to Skinwalker Ranch. He hired Travis Taylor because Travis is equally as bad at critically analysing data as he is, and demonstrated a propensity to wildly overstating the strangeness of actually mundane things, fabricating paranormal explanations and extremely unlikely speculative conclusions.
Tell the listeners which website you've just found that on, because I know
Reddit.
Exactly where it's come from.
It's on Reddit, yeah.
So, I'm sorry, I'm going to dismiss
This is
that
opinion.
completely.
This is opinion.
Yes, Jay Stratton did head up the UAP task force. I never said at any point that Travis Taylor headed it up. I said they made him very senior in the UAP task force.
The UAP task force was a joke. It was comprised of unserious ghost hunters and paranormal fans who just hired each other specifically because of their interest and belief in paranormal things.
And
it was all one.
Sorry, that's absolute bullshit.
But yeah, it was all one big echo chamber of ridiculousness, and it's no mystery why they failed at their job to identify reports sent in and failed to actually identify foreign spy balloons that have been floated over the country for the years.
Not to be difficult, Neil, but
it's a point of view.
It's hardly, and I'm sure if listeners want to hear the opinion of Reddit, they can,
No, but we're talking about how these kinds of studies get ridiculed. There you are. There's a first-hand ridiculing of the whole thing. So that's what they have to contend with when they're looking at. That's what they're going to be. That's what Jay Stratton and Travis Taylor will get accused of.
And it's right to look at the credentials of people like Stratton, of people like Dr. Taylor. It's absolutely right. We should look at them. But to say, he believes in God. Well, here's the thing: the only serious scientists you will get researching UFOs are people who have an interest in the paranormal. I'll say, as a blanket sort of statement. If somebody dismisses that sort of thing out of hand, that's the last person you want on a team. You want people going in with an open mind.
But did Dr. Travis Taylor say, as he's accused of saying here, that there are no known technologies that use the 1.6 gigahertz bandwidth?
No.
He didn't say that.
In fact, on this particular program, on the Skinwalker Ranch program, they have said many, many times that certain satellites use it, certain military communications use it.
Yeah, but
certain cell phones use it.
But what we're saying is that on Skinwalker Ranch, this signal is suddenly detected.
Yes.
When paranormal phenomena appear.
Yes, it coincides. It coincides with the appearance of certain phenomena.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not. It's not that. Yeah, of course, there isn't a frequency on the planet that that isn't used by someone somewhere. So yeah, but yes, it's the connection, or the apparent connection.
I mean,
the circumstantial connection.
Can you just pick any frequency and say we'll communicate on this, and as long as both of you are tuned into that frequency, you'll be able to talk over radio?
I'm not an expert in radio frequencies, but I think within reason, maybe within a certain range. Yeah.
I certainly remember working in the military when we would be scanning the radio waves. I mean, I know these radios had a limited range, but they would pretty much cover everything military forces were likely to use. But yeah, there was no one saying, well, no, there wouldn't be anything on that frequency. We would listen.
I mean, you probably know more about radio frequencies than I do from that.
Well, yeah, I wasn't that hot on the techie stuff. We would have two radios. One of them would be, okay, at 12 o'clock, this network, this unit will always send a message on this on the hour. They will come up and check in, or on the half hour, or on the quarter hour. So you'd have your radio tuned in, ready to listen to that. And in the meantime, you'd have your second radio, and you'd just be sort of scrolling through, listening to what you can pick up. But obviously, you drop it for the priority ones as soon as something came up.
Something interesting.
Yeah, and there were sometimes it would take a long time to identify something that actually was of value, because they broadcast quite close to something that was quite mundane, but we're used to listening to it. So it would just be, someone would start listening to it and then just drop it, and there wouldn't really be anything until there were enough sort of partial logging, so someone would say, actually, let's get someone on this one.
Yeah. So, looking at the history then of this 1.6 gigahertz, like I said, yes, we have human transmissions at 1.6 gigahertz. There's no question about that. But there's no other frequency that I'm aware of that people have simultaneously detected whilst observing UAPs. There's no other signal that I'm aware of that people have put out to stimulate UAPs. So I'm inclined to think there is a connection there. It's not a constant connection, but
I remember working with someone who they were part of the SETI program, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, and they had, I don't know what equipment they had, but they basically had a computer running at home all the time looking for some kind of signal. So would that have been searching specifically on the 1.6 gigahertz frequency, or?
As far as I'm aware, SETI isn't a specific signal. I don't know.
If you're scanning an area for a radio signal, you're gonna. Well, I suppose
you're sort of broadband on that. You're not narrowly looking at one particular thing. You get an entire spectrum analyzer across the whole range. I'd have thought that would make sense, because but if you get a signal at 2 gigahertz and you're only looking at 1.6, that's So they'd stick a spectrum analyzer across that, no doubt.
Okay.
Interesting though. There we go. You got any thoughts about what it might be though? Are you going with the satellite, or?
I'm going with. I don't know. It's not. I don't think it's nailed down tight enough for me. Yeah, they picked up this signal, but it could be. It could come from anything. I think. I don't think it necessarily means extraterrestrials or paranormal. I don't know. I don't know.
There's looking at further though.
Our entire reality. I mean, we're made of atoms, which are largely energy. So our entire reality is energy vibrating at a certain frequency. So I don't know if that's 1.6 or what. Yeah, we are just 1.6 gigahertz.
Maybe we are. Well, what do our listeners think? That's what I want to know. If your listeners out there, if you've watched Skinwalker Ranch, do let us know what you think about it. And what do you think about this 1.6 gigahertz signal? You can contact us via the usual means. You can email us aliensexplored@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook, on Twitter, and on YouTube. Give us a cheeky like and subscribe while you're there, please. And of course, if you're one of our Patreon subscribers, you get exclusive access to our Discord server where you can chat with like-minded people about that as well. Join us next time when we're sticking with military stuff, though, Neil, because we're going to look at some UAP footage taken in 2014 by the Chilean military.
Right.
So we don't want to miss that one.
Well, no, I'll be there.
Indeed. In the meantime, keep watching your spectrum analyzers for any weird signals. And of course, keep watching the skies.
And let
Take
us
care
know.
for now.
Let us know what you find. Catch you next time. Bye-bye.
Aliens Explored is a Figo Films production in association with Juicy Fomes. Music by Darren Mafucci and editing by Stu Jackson. Find us on Twitter and Facebook by searching Aliens Explored or visit aliensexplored.com.